A big night for local high school girls basketball as Tuesday marks the start of conference play in the NIC-10. Hononegah won the conference title last season and currently sits atop the standings with an undefeated record to start this season, and they would add to that against Harlem. Hononegah went undefeated in the conference last season, but Harlem beat them in a Class 4A regional final. But the defending conference champs start the game on an 8-0 run, capped off by this three from Allison Needfeld off the steal, and the Lady Huskies want to talk things over. Later into the quarter, Jordan Dimke makes the long two-pointer, and the sophomore led the team with 15. Then some nice ball movement by the Lady Huskies helps Taylor Paulson cash in on the bank shot, and Harlem gets on the board. But Hono takes this conference opener by a score of 53-23. Elsewhere in the conference, Freeport taking the trip to Auburn in one of the closest games of the night in the conference. Early in the game, Olivia Brown dribbles the ball down the baseline and hooks the shot for 2 points and one. Lady Knights up 8-3. Freeport turning defense into offense. After coming up with the block, it is Mikayanna Walker-Castle who is going to hit the three-pointer, and Auburn leads now 15-9 after one. Into the second, Keegan Huggins, look at this, pivots around the defender and careens it into the basket. Lady Pretzels once again make it a 6-point game. Later in the quarter, Namarie Haley is going to pull up from beyond the arc and drain the three. Auburn takes their conference opener at home, 60-41. Some other conference scores: Guilford wins a close one against Jefferson. Belvedere beat East by 40, and Boylan tops Belvedere North by 44.